Everyone to the Historic Resources Board meeting of January 26th. Would the secretary please call roll?
Yes, the liaison will call roll. Chair Bernstein?
Here.
Vice Chair Wimmer? Here. Board Member Kohler? Here. Board Member Bunnenberg?
Here.
Who needs to go deal with parking right now, right? And Board Member Bauer?
Here.
Board Member DeSico? Here. And Board Member McKinnon? Here. All present.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda would be oral communications, and the public may speak to any item not on the agenda. I do have 3 speaker cards, and the first card I have is David Corahan. And Corahan, thank you. I'm reading your, thank you, welcome.
Thank you, Chair Bernstein and board members. David Carnahan, Deputy City Clerk with the City. I'm here for 2 reasons today. One is to express the Council's appreciation again to all of you, but in particular to the 3 of you that were not able to make it to the Board and Commission recognition event. So for board members, DeSico, sorry about that. Roger Kohler and Michael McKinnon, I will bring up your proclamations and your gifts from the council for to express their appreciation for your service last year.
Did we get a raise?
You did. They didn't authorize it, but I'll give you a 1,000% raise on the spot, retroactive for all the years you've been here, if you so choose. I'm also here to talk about our board and commission recruitment that's going on. The deadline is tomorrow tomorrow the 27th at 4:30 p.m. We're looking for additional applicants for the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Planning and Transportation Commission, and the Historic Resources Board. We're hoping, if you haven't had a chance to reach out to people you know in the community, in particular for the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Planning and Transportation Commission, we would appreciate you reaching out to members of the community and convincing them in just over 24 hours that they want to apply. And applications are available on the City Clerk's webpage, and I'll give you a flyer. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, David. Next on our agenda is continuing on is the next speaker I have is Kimberly Wong, and welcome. Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kimberly Wong. Sorry. I live over at 1260 Emerson Street, and my name is Kimberly Wong. And I am curious how how you request that a historic home be preserved. And specifically, the Lockheed House at Castellea had just turned 100 years old, so reaches centennial mark. And I am wondering what is the process to consider preserving it rather than tearing it down for a construction. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are we able to respond, or?
Yeah, I think we, typically oral communications is a one-way thing, people talking. Certainly through the chair, I mean, I'm capable for Kimberly to reach out to me to ask me these questions, and I will provide her the answers. Okay, good.
All right, as far as the response then, again, normal communications, we're just listening to members of the public. So I guess I could suggest to, if you could reach out to Amy French, Planning Manager. It's the proper title?
I'm the Chief Planning Official, but close enough.
Chief Planning Official. Then she can go through the process for that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome. Okay, next I have is Leland Francois. And you can correct my pronunciation if that's correct.
Oh, you're right on time, Chairman Bernstein.
And welcome.
Good morning. Leland Francois, from the other end of town, meaning around the Ravenswood, Port of Ravenswood, Cooley Landing, and Ravenswood Industrial Park. I'm circulating quite a few flyers. There isn't a lot of preservation effort going on in the East Palo Alto jurisdiction as we speak. If it is, it's probably scattered. But before I address what some of the subjects that I'm here for, I want to call your attention to the news article that was printed November 24th. I think that was the Palo Alto Daily. And it was titled, "City Carts Off Pieces of History." Well, unfortunately, that was never resolved, and a lawsuit was filed. I am the plaintiff. And there isn't really a whole lot I can say about that, but it's matured about 28 months now. And unfortunately, I do think because of the fact that there are some voids, time voids in that, it may affect a lot of municipalities around here, but nonetheless, it is a public information. And I do believe that historic resources are part of the municipal infrastructure. Therefore, it warrants public policy as far as public information. But I'm not going to say a whole lot to that. If there's any questions, please contact me. The matter is in litigation right now, and I'm sure we're going to come to some resolve, but I wanted to give you a heads up on that. The flyer that I'm circulating, for the most part, is pretty much self-explanatory. It's pretty much where my mind has been over the past 24 years in terms of my feeling about Ravenswood, East Palo Alto area. But I do want to say that starting as of this year, I'm initiating a survey at the old Ravenswood High School campus, which today is the entrance to the Ravenswood 101 Shopping Center. Then it was 2050 Cooley Avenue. I'll be there every day behind the Office Depot for about 3 or 4 hours, surveying the public, finding out what they know about that particular area. These products I brought here are my latest innovation through Ravenswood Garden Kits products and the Free at Last Gardening Club. I'll briefly touch on them. They are something different. If I try to explain to you what they look like, it's hard, but a picture tells the story of 1,000 words, and I brought something to let you know. The first item is called the Golden Free at Last Message, dedicated to Dr. King. The second one is titled The Other Apple Store, and I'm not sure if the camera is able to reflect that. The third item, of course, is the Pumpkin Factory, Black Lives History Matters First, Matters Too, and the last one, of course, is Ali's Office. Now, one thing about these planners, I can't just put them out there in the public without getting permission from the authorities or from the founding agencies or originators. Therefore, on the Golden Free at Last Message, Ali's Office, I am consulting with the appropriate family agencies in the states to get permission to circulate these. But nonetheless, I can talk about them.
Great.
But feel free to come out and join me every day, 1 to 5 p.m. over Ravenswood campus towards the rear Office Depot. Coming out, I have a lot of products in the morning.
Great. Okay, Leland, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good, good. Okay. All right, that ends all the oral communication. Any other members of the public like to speak? Okay, seeing none. Next is agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Amy?
Yes, it was intended that this would be, this is the first meeting of January, and this would be the election of officers. So I don't know what happened. We do these electronic packets now, and they get messed up. But that's the intent, is to have that happen today. The current chair and vice chair have served for a term of a year. And so, and of course, the next item, the official reports will talk about amending the bylaws to make January the official election month.
Okay.
I'd like to comment on that. We, in the past, we haven't been so rigid in terms of year as chair, and then we do it, because, in fact, some years we might have only met 4 or 5 times or less. So I don't know how many times we met this year, but it hasn't been every month, has it? I don't know.
I'm happy to answer that, but basically, I mean, it doesn't matter how many times a year you've met, you've served the term of a year, no matter how many meetings that
We need your mic on.
Yes, okay, I'm getting there. I'm just trying to say that it seems, if in fact I don't think we had more than 6 meetings at the most. Maybe we had more.
I've cataloged that in the CLG report.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, that's just my thought, but I guess if we're happy with who's here now, we can re-elect him. That's true? Yes? Okay.
And then the other comment I have is that, actually, the city council is still interviewing applicants. So actually, we only have 4 board members that are right now. So I guess the council has not voted on who the 3 other board members will be, correct? So
So they've extended the application period to see who else is out there, but you are serving, at the pleasure of the council, unless you quit. So since you're here, I suggest that you can, of course, decide to go through the process to renominate for a year the current board members, and then if things change for some reason after this process, then that would be another.
we'd have another election.
Question,
Yeah, okay. All right, Board Member Bauer.
So I've been thinking about this since the council decided to continue the interview process. And there are 4 applications for the 3 board seats that have expired. And it's conceivable that one of the 3 of us who are sitting here today won't be back here. And in light of the fact that the council has decided to extend this whole process because they wanted new council members to be part of the selection of board members, I think it's inappropriate for us today to make any changes. Because then, assuming that a new board member arrives, that board member would be effectively left out of the decision-making. We're not in any hurry to do this. I think we ought to have the city council resolve the membership of the board. I understand that, I read the ordinance, I understand what the issues are here, but council wanted to have new people participate. I think it was be only fair for us to have if there is a new board member, to have that person participate. So I would suggest that we, what's the term of art we use? That we postpone until a date uncertain and wait for the council to actually confirm the 3 new board positions.
I mean, that makes sense to me. It's find out who the 7 board members will be and then have the nominations and elections of chair and vice chair. Yeah, I mean, so I share that thought. So.
Was that in the form of a motion?
Well, see, the bylaws does say that, says or as near as possible, and I guess what's possible is that, well, let's wait till we know who the 7 board members are.
So, Chair Bernstein, I'd like to move that we postpone this election until after the council acts.
That you move it to a date uncertain?
Right.
I could second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on this motion before we vote? Okay, all those in favor, signal by aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Any other agenda changes, additions, and deletions?
None.
Okay, all right, city official reports. Chief Planning Official, Amy.
So the first item is just a schedule for the year of your meetings, and this reflects as if we're having 2 meetings a month. We are not currently having 2 meetings a month. It's too much of a burden for a vacant staff position to carry 2 meetings per month. So we are doing as good as well as we can with 1 meeting a month at this time. The next meeting, we're looking at February 23rd as a potential for an HRB retreat. And then we are also considering later in the spring to have a joint meeting of some kind with the ARB, study session of sorts. So we're looking into that. So I guess, as usual, alert, so Robin Elner is back in the office again, and alert her if you are not able to make one of these meetings in advance, please do let us know so that we make sure we have a quorum for the meetings. Okay, and that's all I have to say about that item. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
I'm disappointed we're not meeting on Thanksgiving Day.
All right, that brings us then to our next item on our agenda, which is a study session. I'll read it. 1451 Middlefield Road, request for preliminary review of a 14,790 square feet. Oh,
No, I think the,
you are correct.
the CLG report.
Yes, and thank you, Board Member Bauer, for reminding me of that. Okay, recommended HRB bylaws modification and the 2015 to 2016 Certified Local Government Annual Report, and discuss topics for upcoming 2017 HRB retreat. Does the planning official have?
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, the staff is recommending that you, and hopefully you've seen the amended bylaws. There's annotations there in that document to talk about, January each year as being the time for election of officers, or as soon thereafter as possible. And maybe we should add a clause, anyways, to address the situation we're in now, or other good reasons. And then the second piece is if you could confirm your availability on February 23rd. It's a normal HRB meeting date, and we're thinking to have the HRB retreat on that date. And then thirdly, I had provided already the Certified Local Government Annual Report that I prepared to convey what the city's been up to for the reporting period. And so I did receive one additional training item from Martin, thank you, which I've incorporated into the document. So that concludes my presentation.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, Amy, why are we amending the bylaws? What's driving that? What's wrong with having the elections in October as we've had? I think that's what we currently are operating under.
Except that it didn't happen in October, and I think we're trying to go to a standardized system for the boards. So January every year, you got, hopefully you've got a board already in place. I mean, what happened this year was, I hope, an anomaly. I'm going to limit that commentary, but typically we would have all board members in place by January because the applications are due in, the fall.
Well, except for the fact that the circumstance we find ourselves in this year is likely to happen every 6 years because we have 3-year terms and the council has 2-year terms, and every 2 years the council turns, and I can foresee the same problem happening. I'm expecting it won't, because I don't think this looks very good. I don't think the council performed well on this. And I'm not being critical of the council, I'm just making the point that the message that was sent to the 200-plus volunteers is that your time is simply not valued because you can go through an entire set of interviews that are totally taped, and the new council can't be bothered to look at those tapes and make decisions about them. So I'm not inclined and not in favor of a change. In fact, I think it was better before the council changed the terms. Our terms ended in June. This problem would not exist if the council had left the term change. Now, I remember the discussion, and I do appreciate that there were reasons for doing this, but I don't want to now make a bylaw change that puts us in a position of having to confront this particular situation again. I think October is fine. I understand we didn't do it, but that doesn't mean we can't pick it up. We don't need to change the bylaws in order to try to undo, a housekeeping issue.
I also thought about there's going to be a repeating frequency of, when interviews for boards and commissions occur, tied in with when do new council members get sworn in office. So it seems like interviews for boards and commissions should happen after new council members are sworn in. That way, council members can vote on, so I share Board Member Bauer's comment about what's the timing of election. Well, let's make sure we have council interviews first to see who's on the board and then have the election. So if somehow if the bylaws can allow for council members to pick board members first, yes. Yes, welcome, Councilmember Holman.
Yes, and I respect and appreciate the comments that board members have made. I will actually apologize for the process that currently took place because it wasn't the intention. And the staff has moved at council direction and staff support to move to a twice yearly application and interview and appointment process so that we won't just have one time a year when, applications can be due. That said, there's also some conversation, at least among some council members, that we need to relook at and make some adjustments so that this kind of thing doesn't happen, because I appreciate very much your comments, Board Member Bauer. It's really a disservice and to the people who have volunteered and who have offered to volunteer. So apologies for my colleagues and myself. So this is a bit of an anomaly. At the same time, it shouldn't happen. So comments accepted.
I would also like to add, as staff, my appreciation and heartfelt appreciation for the number of hours of training that the HRB, in particular, as a CLG representative, have to go through every year. And I don't know how clear that is for folks that are applying for this position, but I want it to be clear that there's an obligation to go to training. There's conferences. There's all of that.
So
I'll support those comments very much. Thank you, Amy.
I'd just like to say that Councilperson Holman was pretty outspoken about the fact that this situation we are in should not have occurred. She did not support the delay of these appointments. And there were other council members, new and previous council members, or I don't know how you say that, the non-newly elected, who supported making a vote and not drawing this out. So, Councilmember Holman, I appreciate your comments. I don't think an apology is necessary, certainly, but I just thought it sent the wrong message, and I think you probably would agree with that.
So we've been requested to vote on this change.
Can I just jump in for a second?
Please,
If you're thinking of moving along the direction of leaving October, might the clause "or as soon thereafter as possible or maybe practical" be left in so that we can address this event?
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. Board Member
So
Bauer.
I'd like to make a motion that we only change the bylaws to add the phrase "as soon thereafter as possible," leaving the October month in the bylaws,
Okay.
thus eliminating all the other changes that are proposed here.
Yeah, looking for a second, if there's a second to the motion. So, okay, I'll second that emotion. I'll second that motion. Okay, any discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously, thank you. Any other discussion items on this particular agenda item? Okay.
If the board has no questions about the CLG report, then it stands as submitted to the state.
Okay, okay. Councilmember Holman. Sorry.
Just a quick question for staff. Is the date that this submission is due, when is that?
In the past, it was submitted already.
It was already submitted, okay. I might suggest that, I don't know, it's up to you all. If you want to look at this and approve it now, or if you want to discuss it during the retreat.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would appreciate if there are concerns or inaccuracies with this report that's been submitted to the state. I would like to hear that. How this gets filled out, who participates in filling it out, all of that. I'm certainly welcome and eager to have that kind of a conversation. This was the first one I've done. I modeled it after the one prepared by historic planner Matt Weintraub last year. So I mean, I think I hit the mark on things, but
I don't take issue with it. The only thing I was looking at is things like we haven't updated our inventory, and that really is a requirement of CLG, of us as a CLG city. So I just thought there might be some discussion around this. So maybe this can still be approved. It's a procedural thing, so maybe this could still be approved. accept your recommendation on that, but if this could be on the agenda for the retreat, that'd be my suggestion if you all are.
And speaking of that, there is actually, part of this agenda item is to discuss topics for the upcoming treat, which is happening in 4 weeks from now. So why don't we open that up to see if any board members like to contribute to what topics we should talk about. Yeah, Board Member Bunenberg.
I would like some additional training and direction in terms of the moving of historic structures. I have concerns and would like to know exactly what the Secretary of Interior Standards directs in this respect.
That's an excellent topic because we obviously get applications requesting such action. Board Member Bauer.
I have 4 items I'd like to have on a retreat agenda. One is that the HRB report directly to the council, no longer report to the ARB. Second, that we have a mid-century building protection plan. We have really been unable to address that, and we're, I think, remiss in not having done that. I'd also like a discussion of making demolitions discretionary instead of ministerial, because I think San Francisco's had a very successful program, in maintaining historic structures, because it is not a ministerial decision. And finally, less important, is a discussion of a Mills Act program that we could develop to try to provide an incentive program for saving residential properties, similar to what we have already in place for commercial properties. Those are my 4 items.
Vice Chair Wimmer.
Yes, I also agree with David on the incentive program. I think that's something that we've been talking about ever since I became a member of the board. And we throw around the idea of talking more about the Mills Act, but we've not really made any action towards that. But I think we can also come up with our own internal incentive ideas. Maybe it's a reduction in application fees, or expedite the amount of time that it takes to go through a historic review process. So I think that should be high on our priority list as far as what we talk about. Oh, and also I think we should review our ordinance, review the historic ordinance, because I think another item on that is penalties. So if someone, for instance, tears down a historic building, their penalty is like $2,000 or something like that. I don't think the penalty really matches the action, so maybe we can take a second look at that.
Okay. I'd like to have, I have 2 suggestions that we speak at the retreat, and one is looking at the historic categories themselves. For example, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are some, I believe, some miscategorized buildings. For example, the former University Art Building is a Category 3. The idea I've been mentioning for a few years now is that a possibility of 2 categories, one category being historic, one category being non-historic. Makes it, from a consumer's point of view, or property owner's point of view, public point of view, that might be a more simple thing, right? What's the difference between a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 3 and all? So non-historic category, historic, like to just discuss that. Also, there's a new state law that went into effect 26 days ago regarding accessory dwelling units. And so there are a number of historic properties in Palo Alto that have accessory structures like barns or garages or carriage houses before cars were here. Like to just have at least the Historic Resources Board get an update on the new state law that is requiring, or at least encouraging cities to amend ordinances to allow secondary dwelling units regarding parking, daylight plane, all the regulations that apply to setbacks for sure. But there are a lot of historic properties that have accessory dwelling units, and at least have a discussion on how that law, and then how we might respond to it with any ordinance proposals. Any other items? Okay. Councilmember Holman.
I'm recalling that last year, when I first became liaison to the HRB, there was a retreat, and there was indication that there were several items that were discussed that were going to be taken up again during the next retreat, and that just did never happen. So I don't off the top of my head remember all of those items. Some of them I think you brought up today, but I don't remember all of those items, but those could surely be found in minutes and forward those. One of the things I do remember, and I know it's a staff constraint, but it still is a little puzzling to me that we don't have on the city's website the list of the National Register determined eligible properties, and nor do we have the list of the potential California. So that can be a discussion we have with staff and HRB. But I remember that was one of the things that was discussed at the prior retreat.
I think, if I might comment as well, I think it's been discussed about the inventory, I don't know how many times, about having it updated, and I think it is truly something that should be a priority, because as Martin also said, there's some, and certainly miscategorized at this point, and I think some combinations of 2 and 3 and 4, need to be changed. And maybe we ensure, I think we were going to have volunteers, in fact, go in the neighborhoods and, revisit the list. So I think definitely that, and I'm very interested also that I was going to mention about the accessory dwellings, and I read Jerry Brown's comment on it and where the city actually stands with it right now.
Do we have a location for the HRB retreat?
No, we don't.
Okay,
Not yet. Do you have any preferences?
Let's see, and then also a time too. Yeah.
I would just assume an 8:30 start, but if there's a preference for, later, let me know.
Okay. A regular meeting time sounds fine for me. Okay. Location, let's see. If we have it here, then we have this arrangement here. Yeah.
What's the front room?
The community room with the glass.
Yeah.
Is that of interest? I can explore that.
Yeah, if that's available, I think that's the more comfortable place, I think. Yeah. Good. Beth?
And the other possibility is for us to utilize one of our other historic structures, such as the Museum of American Heritage, which has a meeting room in it, and there are probably others.
There are, through the library system, you can reserve at the downtown library, at Mitchell Library, and at Rinconada. They have conference rooms that are available but we would have to reserve them in advance.
So it's now, if you check the community room, that's maybe the easiest location, I would think.
How about the, something in South Palo Alto, like at the new library in Mitchell Park? Then I won't have to drive as far.
It's a long walk, Roger.
I mean,
Okay, well, we have...
We at the south end of town usually feel left out, so everything's at this end and south end, but now we have that big library, so I'm just thinking.
Okay. We have several options here. Is there, how do you want to decide?
Well, thanks for the input, and we'll explore what's available.
Okay.
If the notion of going to South Palo Alto is something that the rest of the board is interested in, I mean, I think we'd probably, we have this van. I could potentially reserve the van for those of us that don't drive to work, and utilize that. But I'd probably have the meeting start at 9 so that I could catch a train here and do what I normally do.
Sure, okay. All right, you can maybe just let us know what's available. We'll go from there. Okay. Right, anything else on this agenda item? Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Study session. Oh, let me go. Do we need to vote on anything? For example, the HRB bylaws, we voted on that already, right? Okay, good, okay.
You need to verify the CLG.
Yeah, maybe on the CLG report, if you could just do something official, then
Sure.
I can report to the OHP that there's been an official
Yeah, okay.
something.
So I looked at the CRG report, and it looks like it meets all the administrative requirements, so good.
So Chair Bernstein, I move that we accept the report.
Okay. That's second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, next, study session, 1451 Middlefield Road. Request for a preliminary review of 14,790 square feet replacement building for an expanded children's museum and zoo and reconfiguration of the adjacent parking lots. Environmental assessment, a draft initial study mitigated negative declaration is being prepared. Zoning district public facilities, shall the chief planning official have a report for us?
Yes. First of all, I just this morning sent to you the Architectural Review Board minutes transcript from last Thursday's meeting. I don't expect that anyone has opened that email up. I just got them this morning, so apologies for that. I do have a summary of what transpired last week. Also, I had last week, or maybe it was Saturday, sent you a PowerPoint, this PowerPoint, but I have some additional photos in here that'll be fun for you, I think. So I'll just give a general overview of the context, and then I'll let John Aiken, who's the director of Zoo and Children's Museum, to go more into detail. And then, of course, the architect is here. Also, I believe in the audience we have our John Rush of Page and Turnbull, who will be supporting us in our efforts on this project. So with no further ado, there is on the screen the context aerial for the site, which includes the museum and zoo and the parking lots that go between the zoo and the Lucy Stern Center and the Girl Scout house, also known as Lou Henry Hoover House. Here is the presence currently on Middlefield of a residential kind of quality, and it's facing residential homes across the street. This is a larger context map showing the Girl Scout house. Here, the Hayes School, elementary school. Here's the neighborhood all along here, and the Lucy Stern Center. Okay, so here I found a photo, an aerial from 1937. It's fun because it's showing the Lucy Stern Center. This might be under construction over here, I'm not sure, with the theater, the adult theater, the children's theater. And you can see just at the tip of this, the Girl Scout house, which was originally potentially, maybe, this is to be explored, but first placed in an alignment this way, or perhaps this was prior to an add-on. So this, all of this research has not been done. Some research has been done to see what the qualities were of that potential historic resource. It's not listed on specifically with the Lucy Stern Center, has a different address. Okay, and here we have just a listing of all of the addresses on the property. This is the Hayes School. This is the fire station that recently you all saw, and the pool over here this side. So really the immediate site area is the Lucy Stern Center, the parking lot, the zoo, and the Girl Scout house. So this is kind of the area we're focused on. Here's some images of the Lucy Stern Center. And here's an image of the library that came after the Lucy Stern Center, Children's Library. Here's an image of the Girl Scout house. And Lou Henry Hoover was the first lady, of course, who was very much involved in the Girl Scouts. And so this has a quality of interest culturally that seems like it would rise to the level of national, but it hasn't been studied in an evaluation to date. There's a little fountain outside here that is dedicated to a former Boy Scout master. So maybe it belongs on the other side of the campus here. The playground behind the Scout House is shown here. And then here's the parking lot that would be a part of this project. So the parking lot is actually a city capital project. The parking lot improvements. The Junior Museum and Zoo is a collaboration between the Friends of the Junior Museum and Zoo and the city. Again, here's the existing footprint with the existing parking lot layout, diagonal spaces here, and then kind of a barrier here. And then here is the proposed footprint, as in the current plans, sort of a U, with this whole Loosen the Zoo. And it's key to this project was preservation of the Dawn redwood, which is here, and the pecan, which is very, very large. They are not protected trees in the sense of the species that is called out in the ordinance, but they've been there a while and they're of aesthetic value. So the proposal is to delete the driveway here and put landscaping and have just the one driveway that aligns with this street here for circulation through the property. So the ARB discussed this last week and had some comments. They were concerned about the context and the missed opportunity for more child-friendly architecture and a child's scale. The fact that the materials and colors seemed to be more research park looking than borrowing from the materials found on the site, and that there was some concern about how transportation would be handled. Buses, there's a bus parking area that's has been considered here, and so this is a busy street, and there was some concern about that. And of course, the Girl Scout house was called out because of the proximity of the pavement that was proposed here, coming into what is now kind of a landscaped area in front of the Girl Scout house. Those are the main points. And so I'll just now turn this over to John Aiken to discuss the excitement about the proposal.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chair, board members. John Aiken, Junior Museum and Zoo. The plan is to rebuild the facility to right-size it for our current audience, and that includes replacing the building with a larger building, replacing the zoo with a larger zoo, but also rebuilding the components so that we're accreditable by the American Alliance of Museums and the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Let me click to the, I've got a button. The zoo will be completely netted, and the netting will be viewable from Rinconada Park especially, perhaps the parking lot too, although the building and the pecan tree will hide most of that view. The idea here is to not only keep vandals and predators out, but to be able to have some of the animals loose in the zoo so that children can explore the zoo and find animals wherever they might encounter them in nature. We are replacing many of the exhibits that we have for our animal collection today, which are mostly rescued animals, so pets and wildlife that's been rescued. But we are adding a meerkat exhibit and a substantial area for management of animals to make the zoo really endure for the next 100 years. So a long-term investment here.
And roll it.
Roll it.
Towards you.
There we go. It's a very tight site. One of our goals is to enhance parking because parking seems to be an issue everywhere, and by enlarging the parking lot, but also connecting all of the other pieces of the park to the Junior Museum and Zoo. And so pathways will connect to the Girl Scout House and Rinconada Park and to Lucy Stern Center, bicycle pathways to Middlefield and through the park as well. But there are a number of constraints on the site, but I think I'll let the architects talk about that as they laid this out. So let me introduce Brent McClure of Cody Anderson Wozni.
Can I get the...
Oh, yeah, let me just finalize that by saying the next steps would be, because we do not have a formal application for architectural review, and And of course, the HRB, it would be involved in the next stage as well, providing recommendations to the director, who is the decision maker in this process. Not exactly, the ARB is not actually the decision maker. So then we have an initial study that would be prepared, is being studied right now, and the final action, there's a phase 2 that the architect will describe. So let me get out of this now. Okay. Oh, yeah, I was just going to get out of it. And
Okay, welcome.
Thanks. Give me 1 second. Oop. How do I go full screen? I can't read it. There we go. Hi there. Brent McClure with Cody Anderson Wozny Architects. I want to kind of reiterate, follow on some of the things and the key points that Amy and John both highlighted about the project and the site. She's already kind of touched on some of the things. First is the existing site plan. We got the 2 existing driveways that enter in, one closer to Lucy Stern and one immediately adjacent the museum, with diagonal parking that kind of rounds about. Then there's this separate parking area that's over here, the landscape buffer zone in front of the Girl Scout building. This is the outline of the existing museum, and then the zone that encloses the existing zoo right now, and the little circles representing a variety of trees. The green line represents the park boundary. As Amy mentioned, what as part of our design is we are looking at having a building that stays completely out of the park. Part of our charge was to maintain the same number of parking stalls and ideally increase the number of parking. Build around the Dawn Redwood, which is a species of tree that dates back to the Jurassic area, so there's a tremendous amount of rich science opportunities with this tree. This tree itself doesn't go back to the Jurassic area. There's the pecan tree up in the front as well. And so as part of the design is we are connecting off of Middlefield, having some pathways that link up and around, and then kind of having a gateway into Rinconada Park. Part of the city's master plan for the park is to have connecting pathways that then link Lucy Stern Complex and into the park. So we're trying to fit this building in and around sort of a variety of contextual issues. Part of the parking also allows for drop-off. It was, there is drop-off along the front. However, there's dedicated bus drop-off as well that kind of comes in. So that was something that was an oversight at last week's ARB session. Then the zoo zone is all outdoor space enclosed by the netting along with the zoo support. So the blue represents really what the new structure is. As I mentioned, we're kind of threading the needle with the area that we have to work with. It's probably one of the most complicated sites I've worked on in my career as far as the amount of space and all of the things that we're trying to fit and preserve. So you can see the boundary of the parking lot, the park boundary, and then the other piece that we're working around is there's an existing utility corridor that runs through. So we've got city utilities that we're having to not build around. We did investigate relocating those, but it was infeasible from a budget standpoint. This project is also 100% donor funded by the Friends of the Junior Museum and Zoo. So it's really been a labor of love over the last 4 years as they've looked to raise close to $25 million to solely fund this project. The parking lot, just want to highlight too, is that there's a landscape zone that's in front of the Girl Scout building. And then as part of the city design that we were working with them on was to expand parking, and then now the parking edge in this current state, which I'm sure you'll want to talk about a little bit, is approximately 15 feet off the edge of the Girl Scout building. Jumping ahead to the plan, this is a diagram. We can show plans if you have questions about it, but really I think this kind of sums up how the building is assembled. There's the Dawn Redwood tree here. We're using that outdoor space as the entrance courtyard for ticketing. And then that front piece is the exhibits hall that links up into the Loose in the Zoo space. The building zones that front Walter Hayes and Middlefield is sort of the back of house support. There's such a shortage of zoo support rooms for animal care and whatnot that John mentioned that we need to put into this project to get accreditation. And then another piece that most people don't know about is the educational component of this program. They do huge amounts of classroom and outreach into the schools, so that would be the blue spaces off the sides of the building. Here's an image, an aerial perspective kind of showing our design concepts as it stands. We've tried to design this somewhat as a courtyard building with the Don Redwood sort of being this focus and centerpiece. A portico and gateway that allows you then to enter into this courtyard, and then using the building to try to resolve the intersecting geometries of the two city grids. So this mass over here, this low slung mass, is the education and zoo support building that then links and wraps around to the back, and then this taller mass at the front with this bump out piece forms sort of the public display and the exhibit space. Some of the finishes that we're proposing to date are, you know, we're mindful of budget and trying to use splash and different things in mindful ways, is that the low building would be sort of a cement plaster. There are some lithocrete walls, which is like an exposed sandstone looking concrete. And then intersecting kind of these low climbable walls and little pops of color with this blue at the entrance portico, and then this blue canopy that's part of the enclosed zone in the back around the pecan tree. So with this being a new building on an existing site, I think the one standard from the Secretary of Interior standards would be of discussion would be, you know, number 9 about differentiation and compatibility. How does that fit with a new building on an existing site that is adjacent to other historic structures? And so in our, you know, we've kind of gone back and forth with this to some degree, and I'll really kind of welcome the board's input as well, is that we're kind of looking at finish to some degree as far as the color of the stucco and the texture as it relates to the Lucy Stern complex. We're using some wood elements kind of to echo some of the Girl Scout building, and then also trying to kind of look as courtyard kind of configurations and arrangements to start to echo a little bit of it. We don't have gabled roofs. We were proposing, you know, some parapet forms and some flat roofs to kind of echo and suggest, you know, more modern construction of this time, as well as, you know, having some fun elements and some pops of color. Here's a quick section that shows sort of the heights as it relates to the Girl Scout building, and this I think gives you a sense as to the aspect ratio of where that outdoor space in the zoo stops and how it relates to the Girl Scout building, and then some of the heights as it relates to the neighborhood. To kind of quickly go through some of the elevations, there's a perspective at the top and then a rendered elevation at the bottom. This would be the view off of Walter Hayes, trying to take a quiet approach as to how it's seen from the street. And then along the street, kind of having the landscape blend in, so that what you really see is when you come around the corner and enter the complex, you know, you've got this gateway, window display so that you can see some of the exhibits from the outside, a wall for kids to climb on and other areas of exploration, and then an entrance into the courtyard. John already kind of touched on the zoo, but it's interactive and connects with the museum. There's pathways that wrap around, you know, things to climb on, animals out on display, and then the zoo support space in the back, which is more, you know, for service and kind of out of view and whatnot. Here's an enlarged section and view of early concept illustration of what it might look like within the zoo itself. And just a diagram we highlight is just, you know, probably some discussion on how the parking might want to adjust around the Girl Scout building, and as well as, you know, the street approach off of Middlefield. That was a really, you know, I think a key point from the ARB. So I think that kind of concludes the points I wanted to touch, and turn it back over to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, thank you so much. Would there be any questions for the applicant or staff? Yeah, Board Member Bauer.
So, Amy and John, can you clarify who's developing the parking lot? That's not going to be the Junior Museum, correct?
We're in process right now. The Friends of the Junior Museum and Zoo have committed to raising the funds and building the museum itself. The parking lot needs to be reconfigured, and they presented a design for that. And the city and the Friends of the Junior Museum are in negotiation right now about who's going to pay for the remodel of the parking lot.
So I notice in the plans that there is a proposal, I think is the best way to put it, that the barrier now between, I think it's Hopkins, or no, that's Rinconada that runs in the backside of the park.
Hopkins.
And Middlefield, which is was installed to keep cut-through traffic from moving from Middlefield into the neighborhoods. I think that's being removed. The barrier would be removed. And is that right?
True, it's being removed, but it's being replaced with a large hump like the one in front of the Art Center between the Rinconada Library and the Art Center to provide a broad pedestrian walkway that connects Rinconada Park to the Lucy Stern Center. And it's also the main pathway is circuitous, so we're hoping to try and cut down on cut-throughs.
Right, okay. I wonder also if anybody, if the age of the Girl Scout house is known. Do you know when that was built?
It was in the report, but it predates the original home was relocated to the current site, and it was designed by Burge Clark and built prior to Lucy Stern Center. It was the research we had done just by staff at the Cubberley Center was that it was relocated from near Melville over to Hopkins, and kind of the Boy Scout house area replaced, came to that former location.
Prior to Lucy Stern? Or
Prior to the design and build of Lucy Stern.
Right, so it's the oldest building
Yes.
in that, okay.
In the whole area.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the staff? Vice Chair Wimmer?
I was wondering, because the site is so small and so limiting, what's your flexibility on height? Do you have to stay at a single story level? I mean, is there a possibility, I know you're right on Middlefield, but is there a possibility of you having some of those facility offices maybe on an upper level so you can have public space on a lower level?
This project has been a labor of love for the last, I think we're going on 5 years now, and we're still at, just entitlements. And so the design that's before you is one that they're confident, and I think our team is confident they can be constructed to meet their program for their budget. We've had earlier versions that is prior to this that had 2-story designs. We've explored basements. We have kind of exhausted, I think, all possible aspects of this, and so really it's sort of pushing up against either park boundary or parking edge and just determining kind of what can give and not at this point. So yes, we've explored it, but I think the 1-story solution is sort of the direction of the client at this point.
Board Member Bunneberg?
Yes, strictly by reason of history, not by financial, I should disclose that some 40 years ago, I was hired to teach outreach classes for the Junior Museum, and then at times did substitute for Gail Bruce in teaching art right there in the Junior Museum. So that this had, and of course my children attended many classes there. I was concerned to hear that you had discarded a gable roof as a possibility, and would like to suggest thinking about a very steep gable roof, which would repeat gable roofs that are across the street. You show boxes, they're gable roofs across the street. Lucy Stern is gable roof. But a gable roof of a very steep pitch could be used as a teaching tool to say that Palo Alto is very unusual in that it goes all the way from sea level up through different climate zones to the hills that are in Foothill Park. So that to say that for instance, the indigenous people right up to now have enjoyed this span, and the shells down on the beach were had many uses to the people and food support, and the acorns up in Foothill Park were used on grinding stones, so that it would be sad to miss a chance to have this kind of thing, and a gable roof, steep gable, would not be that, in fact, would call attention to the building from Middlefield. You have your wonderful sign, and you have your fanciful playground that does respond to children. What about one more item?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for applicant or staff? Board Member McKinnon.
I think I read in the report that the decision or the interpretation was that the site was not historic, it had lost integrity. Is that correct?
So there was a historic resource evaluation, actually two, one back in 2004 and another one more recently to respond to the current proposal. And yes, it was determined by that study that it was, while culturally significant, the building itself had gone through many iterations.
That was never brought before the HRB for concurrence, or?
It's before you today. It's in your packet.
Yeah, it's in the packet, but was it actually brought before the HRB?
It's before you today. So no, it has not been brought before you. There's been no determination on this project because it's not a formal application.
Okay.
It's all ripe for your comments.
Well, okay, so that, I would take that as an opinion right now. Is that correct? That's an opinion.
It's a historical, qualified professional opinion that was prepared after significant research, and the preparer is here today. At least a representative of Page and Turnbull is here if you had a question.
Well, the point I think is, I think it should be subject to review by HRB, that decision. Maybe we don't concur with it.
Okay, well, we'll discuss when we come times for the HRB to discuss. We'll discuss all the things you're bringing up. That'd be great. Okay, Board Member DeSico.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm kind of, the report was rather lengthy, and I'm getting a little bit confused, shall I say. The original building is going to be demolished. Are any parts of that being retained, or you're starting from scratch?
At the current state, no. That's correct.
Pardon?
We are not preserving any aspects of the building.
And the original building, as it stands right now, part of that building has the gable roof and is in part 2 stories. So that would be a consideration still, or not?
I think we could consider gable roofs. We're not opposed to it.
Yeah, it's hard from the plans and such. It does look kind of industrial, or with just flat roofs, and I would agree with, as Beth mentioned, I fit into the neighborhood a little better, the massing and the appearance of the building. So that would be a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going from, how many square feet are being increased by 5,000 square feet?
We're adding approximately 5,000 to 6,000 square feet.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to clarify it to myself.
Before we go to members of the public, any other questions for the applicant or staff? Yeah, we're going to go to the public, and then we can discuss things. Yeah. Do you have any board members have any other questions for applicant or staff before we move to the public? Okay, seeing none. I don't have any cards on this. If there are any members of the public like to speak on this, you can let yourself be known. I see none. Okay, we could bring it back to the board. Board Member Kohler, would you prepare to continue with your train of thought?
Well, I looking at this, I moved here in '54 and started 4th grade at Fair Meadow from New Jersey. And I remember vaguely going with my mom and dad to the children's, museum there and being kind of overwhelmed. And vaguely remembering thinking, well, what a great place. And then my kids went there for classes. So I have to admit, I haven't been in there for a little while. I think there was something, didn't the historic board members, didn't we have to do something in there? They were doing an improvement or something?
Yeah, it was for the Lucy Stern Center. We looked at putting the
Yeah.
utility box on the opposite side.
Well, but I meant,
Yeah, yeah.
well, before that, there was but I was interesting, the comments about why is the roof flat? And that was sort of one of the things I was wondering about is that I kind of agree that you look around, there's all the homes with, and it's felt a little out of place on a park scene. It was just feels more industrial. So we're just making comments, or are we asking questions, or what are we doing today?
You can ask questions and comments, but
Okay.
already been through the question period, but if you have additional questions.
No, I was tending to agree with the comments about that maybe the roof shouldn't be flat, because it kind of reminds me of the industrial park, Stanford Industrial Park, but because there's so many, even the school next door, and I sort of feel like, other than that, I mean, it's an amazing layout, and the access to the zoo and everything is quite incredible. It's just the building seems to fall short of the rest of the results.
I'm reading the ARB preliminary review comments, and it seems to be addressing a similar kind of thing, where it says, the architecture needs to address the context and purpose of the building, and the building materials and colors should reflect the site, the neighborhood. I think your name again? I'm sorry. Who's that? Yeah, Brett mentioned already about at least the color and some materials. For example, the Lucy Stern Center, it's white colored stucco, and they're proposing stucco on some of the buildings. So at least, we're heading in that direction. Yeah, the roof forms, I agree with board members have said so far, is that, the houses across the street, and then also the Lucy Stern Center itself, there's a gable roof system there, so that could add to more of the compatibility regarding to the Secretary of Interior standards. Other board members? Board Member Bauer, give your light on.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, to start by saying, I think all of the site layout here is an improvement. I should disclose, I went to the Junior Museum first about 63 years ago, and I took my children there, and I was there last month with my grandson, and I was astounded at the number of people that use the facility. So this is way overdue, this remodel. I also noted when I was there that the building, as it exists today, has no resemblance to what was built, at least from my memory. So I think that the analysis that this building has no historic fabric that we should be saving is accurate. We can have that conversation again or at a different time, but so let me move on to the design. I thought the use of the materials on the outside of the building is appropriate, clever, because it's picking up the wood from the Girl Scout house and the stucco. But I share with my other colleagues on the board a concern about the fact that it looks like we have an industrial box, and the gable, the tile roof on the Lucy Stern Center, for instance, has a softening effect, even though tile is not soft, but the appearance is softening. And the fact that it does work with the neighborhood, which has gabled or sloped roofs on practically every building surrounding this, I think is important. I like the entrance to the building because it's very important, having little kids running around, that there's a way to contain them. And I thought that archway is quite clever, and it does feature that redwood tree. So I think this is a really nice compromise in a very hard design situation. My only other concern is the cut-through traffic. on the parking lots, which I have to say I'm guilty of when it was open because I live not too many blocks away from here. And in our current traffic situation, it will only occur again at the Art Center parking reconfiguration that was done when the main library was remodeled. There is a kind of circuitous route from one parking area to the other. And there are also ballards that can be raised and lowered. That cutoff is very effective when there's a big group of people at the Art Center. And it doesn't seem to be a problem on most other days. But I would think that if we're going to open that up, we ought to have some barrier that can be erected most permanently or, raised and lowered so that on the really heavy traffic days, like the weekends, people can get in and out. But I think weekdays, we absolutely do not want cars cutting through there. So those are my general comments.
Hey, Brett, the drawing on page A1.1 says it's a fire access line, so can there be bollards in that? Or does it have to be accessible for a fire truck cut through? Yeah. You know?
Yes, it would have to be accessible for a fire truck to go through. So, but there's ways to get around that. You could have a bollard that's got a padlock on it that the fire truck could then, it's like opening a gate.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. Good. Okay, Board Member Bunenberg.
In listening to the ARB, the tape of the ARB, I was interested and concerned that the bus parking appears to be out on Middlefield, and there was real concern about what about both that congestion on Middlefield and letting children out so close to a major artery in our city. So I was wondering whether you had considered any kind of possible tunnel or semi-tunnel to get kids in without having them dropped off.
I'm sorry, if I can clarify, I don't think we had fully and properly clarified that comment with the ARB in the short time that we had to present the project. And what we have is, it's kind of a multi-layered aspect of this job. As part of the master plan for the park, I think the city is looking at establishing and reinforcing a bus stop zone on Middlefield. However, the way the parking lot is designed with the turning radius is that if a school bus wants to pull into the site, they can do that and then drop off right in front of the museum and zoo.
Good. That's very important. And I also very much feel that modern museum techniques do involve some things like time tunnels and this sort of thing, and they seem to be fascinating to kids, so that to keep that as a possibility.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wimmer?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could change the slide back to one of the exterior, the front elevation, so we can kind of take a second look at that. And my comments are very kind of in keeping with what the board has already mentioned, is that, for me, I just feel like this is part of the community center. It's an extension of Lucy Stern. And I would like to see some kind of a nod or response to the architecture of Lucy Stern, but still make it of today, which now things are becoming very modern, very sleek, very boxy. But I think if you could balance that, it could be very exciting and very interesting, because it's almost a little bit too streamlined, too square, too boxy. And you have the building that's closest to Middlefield, the one, and on your materials page, it's a cement plaster exterior, which is kind of similar to what Lucy Stern has. Maybe you could take a look at putting a gable roof over that, and maybe putting some Spanish roof tiles, and maybe that's your opportunity to pull a little bit of Lucy Stern over to this, but still make it modern, still make it up to date and exciting in that sense. And then I think about like where that has just recently been done is Palo Alto High School. I mean, Palo Alto High School has that Spanish colonial sort of original buildings, and then now they have a new theater and gym that's, I don't think that that's like a wow. I can see how they're trying to pull those elements into those new buildings, and yes, they succeeded in doing that, but is that, so I think maybe you have an opportunity to pull those elements over and make those elements more correct, but mix it with some modern lines. I think it's a great opportunity to do something really cool, but I really do think that it needs to respond to Lucy Stern. It needs to feel like it's a part of that. But, and this feels like it's trying to be something totally different and deny the fact that it's part of the community center. So I think that would be my strongest opinion.
I would share those comments too about the, if there's a way to introduce a gable or gables, but still that using the genius of the architect to keep it contemporary and also keep it subordinate to the dominant Category 1 Lucy Stern, and I know your office is very capable of that. Yeah, when I first saw the renderings, I was actually quite excited to see something very fresh. So I'm there about once a week on that property, and yeah, the existing building, it looks tired, and it's time to do something different. So I think yeah, something modern direction and a very contemporary direction as you're illustrating, and then again, as other board members have mentioned, a nod to the gable. Yeah, keep it in not a replication of historicism, but I think, yeah, I see that you agree. Okay. The other comment I had, and thank you for bringing it up too, on page A1.1 site plan shows new parking stalls within a few feet or inches to the existing Girl Scout building at page A1.1, yeah. And so if there can be, as you proceed with your review process and refinements, to see if there's a proposal that don't have a car right next to that building there, because again, it's not listed on the historic register yet, but if it does go through review, it's because of its age and architect, and use and history, it'll probably get some level of historic designation, I would imagine. And then, so it's, don't let those cars come so close. That'd be my suggestion on that. Any other discussion? Board Member McKinnon.
Okay. I was looking at page Z21, and I really like that, the mesh that goes over the top of it. We were in Hong Kong a few years ago, and there's an aviary in downtown Hong Kong that has a similar treatment, and it's really quite effective. You can walk along little catwalks and walkways. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but this kind of reminds me of it, and I think that will be a very strong point. But I do concur with the other comments about the form of the building would probably be more compatible if it was did have some similarities to the Lucy Stern Center. It's kind of a boxy type look right now when you look at it. That's it.
Board Member DeSica.
Yeah, the zoo looks like it's going to be amazing. Oh, I thought I had done that, sorry. The zoo does look amazing. And how is that being enlarged by, and what size compared to the original?
It's increased in size by, my cheat sheet notes in front of me, about 5,000 square feet.
It looks like it's going to be an amazing place for children. And I know it's phase 2, and phase 1 hasn't actually occurred, but the fact of putting in a tree house and sounds also very amazing, and I don't know anything children like better than tree houses. Where would that be in, respect to the zoo and what's in place, and what tree has that been designated?
The phase 2, I'm going to jump, so I think the diagrams probably help illustrate it best. If, this is the building shape here, this U shape that then rotates, and then this is the pecan tree. This is an enclosed open-air courtyard. We're calling a science courtyard, so this is internal to the complex, and then opens up and you can go into the zoo. So the netting goes around this green zone. There will be a tree-like structure out in the zoo as part of phase 1, but with phase 2, what the plan is that there would be, at the ground floor, we would add a small modest building, and which is not part of this application today, but just to show sort of the long-term plan is that there would be an education classroom on the ground floor, and then a zoo exhibit space. Initially, there's been talk about a butterfly room, lots of really fun and interesting ideas, and that could then link up with a catwalk bridge, such as Mr. Macon was talking about from Hong Kong, that can then link up and connect with the tree fort. One of the goals was to get this over-under experience, so when you're out with the animals, you're up in the trees, you're down below, and as we've looked at the constraints of, the modern finances of this project, some of those things have been moved to this phase 2.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Sounds amazing.
Board Member Kohler, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Board Bauer.
So one comment that I'd like to make about the exterior materials is I think about how this new building will relate to the buildings on the site. I think that this building really relates to the Lucy Stern Center more than the Girl Scout House. Girl Scout House is kind of screened by the trees, and it's off in its corner. Obviously, extending the parking lot over there makes a difference. But I think that really the face of the museum should reflect the materials and the style of Lucy Stern. And maybe the wall that faces the Girl Scout House is the wood material that you've used. But I'm not being critical of your architecture, just suggesting that you might explore that.
I have one final question. How is former Historic Resources Board member Monty Anderson doing? And since he started his company and everything.
Monty Anderson is enjoying retirement or his next phase immensely full-time up in Sea Ranch at the moment.
At Sea Ranch, I didn't know.
Yeah, we'll pass it along.
All right, so this was a study session, and do you have any questions for us? Good.
I think you guys kind of covered it. Thanks.
Okay, good. All right, any other items on this subject? Amy, anything else? Or Mr. Aiken, any comments?
One thing I wanted to point out about the parking lot challenge with the Girl Scout House.
Yeah.
One of the reasons the parking lot was sort of shifted towards the Girl Scout is to actually give Lucy Stern a little bit more breadth and put some landscape on that side. And so we kind of recognize that there's a little bit of a dilemma here to respect one side of the lot or the other, but we'll take these comments and look at it again.
Okay. Is there Amy, is it appropriate for the HRB to request that a historic structures report be done on the Lou Henry Hoover Girl Scout building? Or does the board even think that's necessary to do at this point? So, okay. Yeah. Made it.
Discuss doing it. It might be in their plans. And I saw some
Okay.
I would certainly favor that kind of thing if we have to wait to our retreat to suggest it, but I think that it is very overdue and one of these structures that's so easy to overlook when you're doing a citywide survey as the Dames and more. Yeah. And so I would strongly agree that this was a major step in women's rights movement to bring in the Girl Scouts.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking this question, if it's appropriate that this be done soon, is that when we get the formal application for this project, and if that parking structure is, I mean, the parking spots are like, very close to the historic building, the HRB may have a little stronger voice in its comment about not allowing new parking to be so close to it. And if we could have our position backed up by saying, hey, this is a significant historic structure, I think that could give a little more emphasis for the HRB's comment about the parking. So, yeah, please, Board Member Bauer.
So I'm mindful of the expense of an historic structure report, and since the applicant would probably have to bear that expense, that just takes money away from the project. Mm-hmm. If we want to have a historic report on the Hoover building, it seems to me we don't need it for this project. We ought to have it, the city ought to have it, but I don't want to burden the applicant with this. I mean, they don't have enough money probably to do what they want to do, and that just takes more away. I think we can make our determination about the appropriateness of the space between the Hoover House and the parking lot without that. But I'm not discouraging the report to be done. I just don't want to, I don't think we have to have it for this application.
Yeah, I agree with David.
Okay, right. Okay, so no action on that. Okay, good. Right, anything else before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Good. Thank you, Mr. Aiken. Second. Okay. All right, next on our agenda is action items. I see none listed underneath there. And next is approval of minutes from December 8th. Any motion to approve or amend?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
I second that
Second,
motion.
any discussion? Okay, all approved, saying by aye?
Aye.
That is approved unanimously?
I would like to say, and I'm assuming board members also share this, that the literal translation of our proceedings is not the most attractive. That I liked Dennis Backlund's version of listening to it 100 times and getting the context right. I think we all speak better than those minutes reflect.
Additional comment on that. I think that we had wanted to make sure that it was not just talked about it, moved, approved, but to get some of the different thoughts that went into the decision, because sometimes later people think, oh, I think so-and-so really was against that, and now I see why. And so I think that hopefully there's some compromise in there. But you're right, it's very long, and it's like making sausage. Making legislation is sometimes not pretty.
I would also like to thank you for bringing your display today. I've enjoyed sitting here looking at them, and it'd be nice to have them here every meeting. But it's just nice to be able to look at them, not have to look at the people in the audience all the time. So.
And also a comment, I'm sure that you have checked with the archives of the city, with Steve Steiger down in K7. There are some files, but my memory is that people from your group have mined that collection pretty well.
Yeah, we're focused on that, and San Diego County as well. But I'm kind of expanding out to the Bay Area to find out that a lot of the peninsula areas put together.
Subcommittee items, I see none.
None.
Board member questions, comments, and announcements. I think we've just done it. Go ahead, Board Member Bauer.
I'd like to share with you the fact that I've joined the Palo Alto Stanford Heritage Board, and that effective this month, with a number of other stellar former staff and HRB members. So I wanted to share also they have two events coming up on February 25th. They have their member appreciation event. It will be at Rinconada Library. Last year at that event, Board Member Kohler was honored as one of the most architects that had a significant impact on Palo Alto architecture. This year, Michael Garavaglia, I think that's the right way to pronounce his name, will be a speaker. Dan Garber will also talk. And the other event that they have is on May 7th. It's the May is Preservation Month, and they will be celebrating 30 years in existence, and there'll be more information about that. That'll be a bigger program. So Rinconada, 2 to 4 p.m., February 25th. It was pretty interesting last year.
And it's open to the public.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, but it is limited to 100 people because of the room size, so probably have to contact the Palo Alto Stanford Heritage. Look on the website, there'll be an RSVP key probably, so that you can get a place.
Okay. Any other announcements before we adjourn? Go ahead.
No announcement, but I just had a quick question for Historic Preservation Month of May. I don't know if the board's ever discussed this before, but is there anything, I mean, this sounds like a good activity. Is there anything that the HRB is interested in doing? I know, for instance, there used to be some walking tours, this kind of thing, related to Architecture Month, and I don't know if there are activities in that regard.
Past has walking tours as part of it.
Okay.
So watch their website, because they will do walking tours as part of that, part of this month. Also, can I ask a question about Fire Station 3, the one on the site? Has that design been finalized yet?
It has not. The ARB saw the meeting last week, and you have it. I forwarded you this morning the full minutes of that meeting last week with the ARB, so you can see what they were talking about. But yeah, it was continued to March 2nd, so that's the final ARB hearing on this project.
So is the building design, has it been finalized?
No, they're working on modifying it to respond to the ARB comments.
And who will report to the ARB? Will someone from
Well, as the project planner, I'm going to all the meetings and reporting out. So,
You go to every meeting, right?
basically, yeah. So,
Never.
I know that we had forwarded the minutes of the meeting that the HRB had, the study session about the preferences for roof pitch and this kind of thing, and the ARB took up conversations regarding that, those concerns and the conversation. So they've been putting them through their paces to come and show some different things. In the end, they're not doing a pitched roof. They showed studies of that, but they are looking at other, they've incorporated some materials and modified, the fence around the property and this kind of thing.
So it's still going to look like a bunker?
No, they've changed materials on the outside of the building from the aluca bond that was there before to a zinc material, and they're still exploring shades. They've incorporated additional wood. So there's several things that are, if you'd like, I can forward you the link to the plan so you can see what it currently looks like, if the board is interested. Oh, and the other thing, as long as we're talking about a project that the HRB looked at, major project, I think the last time we were together, December 8th, the Avenidas project was going to appeal on the Monday, the 12th, but it was withdrawn. The appeal was withdrawn. You probably read about it in the paper. Yeah, just to put a final statement on that.
And is the addition to the Green Gables, is that what we,
Yeah, the Green Meadow Pool, they haven't come back in that I'm aware with, you know, the modified.
Sure.
But I'll look into it because there is a planner that's assigned to that one.
great, thank you.
That we are adjourned.